I'm a psychotherapist here in New York City, and today we are talking about dating. Yes, the trials, the sorrows, the elucidations, the illuminations, all of the stuff that dating has to provide us. Dating is smarter than we are. Dating will eradicate so much of your BS. It will strip away so much ego because it is a consolidator of what is good in us if we allow it to do its work. So we have to have this relationship with dating in which we don't hate it and we don't see it as a cruel punishment, but we use it as a tool of growth. So beyond even finding the person, can you just let it educate you in who you are more and more? And then let it push you towards having more compassion, empathy for others, more love for yourself and others, and also boundaries. That you start getting a keen insight of what you want and don't want. And so often we need a practice in this, and it feels reductionary, that it's reducing us, that it's actually sometimes even bringing us back to a place of being raw and uncomfortable. But if we are unsentimental towards it at some level, maybe dispassionate even, we practice that, it can actually move us towards more and more self-awareness, which is a thing that most of us are looking for. But it will bring its bumps and its bruises and the psychoarchaeology that you'll have to do, the digging around inside to find out what the borders and boundaries of your possibilities are, will happen in dating. It's happened for me. I now have 4 decades of experience in dating, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. I had a unique experience recently. As COVID ended, I found myself in a experience of depression. It lasted about 4 months, and it was about kind of coming back to the world anew, having spent too much time in work with clients, investing in some of the things I wanted to invest in, but that were pretty solitary experiences. And so there was an isolation that was catching up with me. And when it caught up with me enough, I want to be honest with you about what happened. The system stopped working in the way it usually did, specifically with sexual desire. That can often happen when depression kicks in. Now, as I'm moving into my mid-40s, there was a part of me that thought this might be terminal, that I won't get it back. My sexual energy will not come back. So I freaked out a little bit, but not too much, because I had experience. I've had 20 years of experience as a therapist, helping people through divorces, through new dating experiences, helping people find relationships that are healthy, helping people leave relationships that are unhealthy. So I knew the answers, but it was hard for me to deal with the fact that I just didn't have the juice I used to have. And I knew one of the solutions was I had to get back out in the game, that I had to let dating be smart and allow the tension with another human to start elucidating and illuminating some of the things that I had let go fallow, I had let go quiet. So if you are struggling, know that we are out there together. That even in times of worried about your libido, which I was, my libido strength had diminished, that some of the imperceptible things that dating does, that it renews us and rejuvenates us, can be actually very powerful and fortify some strength that we need. It penetrates some of the dark spots. Now here's the thing, between you and I don't want your feedback or suggestions, or you tell me that you have a person for me, or maybe I need to try this or try that in my life. I have gone on an experience since that depression and the 4 months that lasted there of going deep into the dating world so that I can come up with not only some information about myself to find some of the sweet reward of dating, but also so that I could pass it on to you. And those trials and tribulations and joys and elations happened for me. It's been kind of an exciting ride. The last year, I've delved into Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, been pretty active. I've swiped right and left in about 4 or 5 countries in the last year as I've been traveling. So I've done this so I can build stronger transmitter, better radio waves and radio dish radar to see what's good and bad for me, but also so I can help you find more of your true self through dating and not be primarily occupied on finding the right person, but actually finding yourself. And as you find yourself, the right people will gravitate to you. It's naturally what happens. There's a Celtic phrase that says, don't give a sword to a man who can't dance. And it's this idea of developing within ourselves the poet and the warrior, the king and the queen together, these tensions of opposites that meld towards being a more whole person. And I do actually think that can happen in dating. So I've had my bumps and bruises, and some of that's for you. We all deal with Romantus Interruptus, that stuff in romance that interrupts our lives. But sometimes we have to naturally gravitate towards it to grow. Now, in my own life, I do not care, quite frankly, if I find the right fit ever in my life. There's times when I really want it, there's times when I don't. There is freedom to both singleness and being in a relationship. There's sadness in both. There's joys in both. They both have interruptions in life. It is not a destination or you've arrived when you found somebody. There's plenty of unhealthy, broken people who have been in long-term relationships. So if somebody tries to compel you to think that you are not arriving, you have not found enough emotional intelligence and self-awareness because you haven't found a person, you need to check them. You need to check yourself too if you fall for that shit. It is not an arrival to be able to find a partner. It is an arrival to find yourself more fully and more whole. That is the truth. There's 8 billion people in this world. The odds are stacked for you to meet someone. It's not that hard. Can you find the ways to not be threatened by a relationship, to be open to relationship, to be open to what it has to provide you, regardless of if you find that person or not? We all have our micro attachments, and we all have our mini obsessions when it comes to romance. And I hope you're able to work through that, and I hope I help you do that. So remember that singleness has freedoms, relationship has freedoms. I hope you get what you want, but I most importantly want you to get what you need. That is the goal here. So let's do that together. My libido is back, baby. And one of the reasons is because I got back in the game, not to find the right person, but to find some of the things in myself that were hiding. And that's always a journey for me, and I hope it's always a journey for you. Now, as we start to try to develop this radar for what's good for us, allow this time to just reflect on yourself and your experience in dating. Again, my name is Drew. I offer dating coaching. You can find me at Drew Newkirk Psychotherapy. That's on Instagram, and I do reels. About 3 to 5 times a week, I do reels on everything psychological. There's music behind it. So I do short form stuff now, guys, not just these 1 hour long form pieces. You can also find me at drew@drewnewkirk.com. And I'm also going to do groups, dating groups. So I'm going to set some of those up. So if you're interested in that, it might be a lower barrier of entry for you, but they might be pretty powerful and you can walk on the journey with other people. Thank you so much for being with me. Let's get into the game of dating, and let's allow it to marshal in some new and penetrating ideas for us. Cool? Namaste, all the things. I'm glad to be with you. Can we make an agreement? This is my disclaimer, an agreement between you and I that I am for you, not against you. So I can't possibly speak to all of the trauma and stresses that you have experienced in relationship. Possible abuse, possible taken advantage of, scary moments, whether it is in a relationship you had, divorces, breakups, or just dating, weird situations that happen, situations that were scary, situations that really put you in a compromising position. I can't speak to all those. And so the agreement between us has to be that I do know all of the possible ways in which people have been hurt. I've been doing therapy for 20 years as a therapist and as a client working through my own stuff. Sometimes you can't know what you're looking for unless you've touched the darkness. So pain can sometimes be an inevitability in the development of intelligences, in how we see the world. So I would love for you to not have an electrically charged, an alert system when you're going into dates, that you can actually ease up. A quote I like to live by is, the most one can achieve is a certain relaxedness and openness to experience. Otherwise, they are a driven burden on others and themselves. And so that's what we're working towards. You might have a ton of baggage that you're bringing in. You might have very little. Your baggage actually might be that you don't have that much experience in relationships. And so you're really nervous about what you're bringing to the table. Do I have enough experience here? Again, my goal is that you find yourself in this. So, not to self-negate, not to make your past unimportant, but use it as self-development and to inform you, but not totally freak you out from going down this road. So we can't underappreciate our past, but we can't be over-vigilant about every situation we get into. We might feel that our soul is a bit malformed and that we are doomed and that we have these iron-bound convictions about what must happen and not happen, and this might happen and that might happen. I'd rather you have like a train track resilience and strength in going into dates. So like I said, you can't know sometimes until you've touched the darkness. But all your disastrous encounters, let them educate you. And I want to educate you on the possibilities. So if you are not ready to date, work through your stuff a bit more. Have gratitude for the process of working through your stuff. And drive towards some alliances with yourself about what you are ready for. This history that we have can be unrelenting and powerfully work on us. And we feel incomplete. And we feel like the pressure is unrelenting. Let's reestablish a sense of rootedness, power, and control in situations. And wait for the appropriate time, which is often the hardest thing to do. So if you find yourself, even as I'm talking, defended, wanting to control or trapped or nervous, okay, cool, let's play with it. Let's use it to mature you and bring you to health. You have to surrender to that. So shelve the cynicism, shelve some of the protectionism, and grizzle up and become a bit stronger in your resolve to work on your shit. Then maybe you'll be ready. But this is my disclaimer. I know that we're coming in with so much stuff. So this, I want to be fun, but this is the heavy part. Just want to root us in this in the beginning. Cool? Thank you for agreeing on this. If you're not agreeing on this, work towards agreeing on this. Okay. What I want to do right off the bat is set our intentions. Now, these intentions don't have to remain, but it's a good place to start, just to root us. So let's just think about where you're coming from right now. Maybe you're newly single. Maybe you're in your 70s and your spouse just passed away and you want to be back out there. And you are wondering if it is okay to be back out there and how do you become back out there? Maybe you're dating for the first time. Maybe you are resistant to dating on apps. You want to meet somebody IRL in real life. And so anytime somebody brings apps up to you, you resist and you push back. Maybe your biological clock is ticking You're hitting that 40 range and you want to have children. Will you be desperate in your dating? Or can you shelve that? And if you shelve that, what would you have to deal with? Maybe the idea of not having children. Do you just want to have fun? You just want to hang out with some new people? That is okay too. Maybe you want casual sex. This might be your agenda. Can you be honest with people about what you are looking for if that is part of your perspective? How do we set our intentions? We have these silent conspirators inside that are pushing against us. So, for example, if you just want to go have fun in dates, but you tend to overthink things, you might be looking to the future. I can do this. So whether it is sex or dating for me, the end is often on my mind. So can I actually just step into a spot in which I am not worried about this person becoming the one, but just be present with them, have some fun, engage in conversation. As my judgmental spirit comes up, as I tend to want to critique and pick apart, can I shelve that just like I would do in meditation with myself? Can I practice these disciplines? Am I worried about somebody wiping my ass at the end of my life and not having anybody around? And so therefore I'm pushing to find this person. Can I pull back and say, well, I'll be single for a while, so I'll raise the money to have somebody be paid to wipe my ass. These are the types of things that we have to challenge. So I hope that even now you're setting some intentions. Maybe you need to pause. Say, where am I at in this journey and what am I looking for? What are the contours of my life and my relationships that I want to have? And do I struggle with the entrepreneurship component of dating? The being out there, the pushing the pace. Might I have entrepreneurial seizures, these starts and stops? That's okay too. What if you just admitted to yourself that there's going to be times that you have more energy to do this and times you don't? So just from the beginning, I want to help us set our intentions. Yours will be different than mine. Yours will be different than everybody else's too. So when they start to impose theirs on you, you may have to push back. But can you also hear what they're saying? Because maybe they have an indication of some of your weaknesses. This is where I want to start us. So maybe even write some of your intentions down. And they can seem silly. That's okay. I want to give you what I think is a useful tool, hard to apply, easy to say, easy to remember. HILA or HILA. High intention, low attachment. High intention, low attachment. You with me? HILA, you do what you need to do. It is so powerful for us to set intentions. I often do this in the beginning of my week, each month, each year. I have intentions, but I try not to misapply attention to how strongly I hold to the things that I'm intentional about. Do you follow that? I try to be a bit unsentimental and dispassionate about what will happen, how things will transform, transcend the intention that I made, that there is necessary malleability that is required when we are trying to do something in this life. So we have to de-unicornize. Yes, I said de-unicornize. We have to take off the pedestal our hopes and our dreams at times and what we expect to happen. But it doesn't mean we can't make intentions and we can't have desires. But we're dethroning the actual result or our attachment to what we need to happen. And yes, we will protest and we will overindulge the future and what we want in it. And that is our resistance. We can be dogged about how hard we hold on to, how grippy and clutchy we are to our expectation of the future. But as we get a bit dispassionate and unattached, we find more of ourself in the movement that is natural. So this doesn't mean that we have to live in anticipated loss because we're already kind of expecting the thing not to happen. It's just that we're de-idealizing a bit. Now, I love Goethe, who says, do not hurry, do not rest. So in this, it means that we have to kind of be intentional in moving forward, but also not so hasty that we see the roads and the offshoots that can happen. What often happens for us, this happens for me, is that we importune. Importuning is asking desperately for something, whether that's to God or the universe, or from a partner or from a date, that we're persistent and we're begging and we're beseeching. And we miss actually some of the opportunities that are there for us. So, as we kind of shelve the waiting for the right person to fit and taking some pressure off of finding the right person, this is another way we can find ourselves. To not be so obsessive and ritualistic, but still be intentional. And this does not mean you need to feel stuck here or overly scared, but there is an optimal frustration that happens with dating, and it pushes us to certain edges. And it actually mutes some of the edges we have and sharpens some other parts of us that need to be sharpened. So allow that to happen. And if you clutch too hard to what you think should happen, you'll lose it. So high intention, low attachment, it's just a tool. And it's a rule I like to, it's a tool and a rule. Rhyming over here. It is a tool and a rule I like to live by, and it's helped me when I go into a situation expecting something and am disappointed because it doesn't happen the way I want. But when I let some of that attachment to the future go, it serves me to see what the next fork in the road is. All right, it's a tool and a rule that I'm giving you. Sometimes I think that I'm giving away too much for free. Some of those juicy, bloody burgers of wisdom, some of those well sauteed and sauced veggies for you non-meat eaters of wisdom, I'm giving away for free. I should not complain about it, but there's a couple that are just hard because I know I could be making that cash in the therapy office with the secrets of these wisdoms, but I'm going to give you this one. If you remember nothing else, Drew says, remember this. Yes, I'm talking about myself in the third person. We are attracted to and attractive to people of equal dysfunction. But what about health, Drew? Yes, health also. We are attracted to and attractive to people of equal health. It works both ways. But Drew, my husband or my wife or in my couple relationship, my partner, I'm not going to use that voice anymore. They do this, they do that. They're the evil one. They're Hitler, I'm Mother Teresa. Okay, you may be the saint. They may be considered the sinner. Maybe everybody sees it that way. He's the drug user. He's the addict. He's this. He's that. She's this. She's that. They are this. They are that. I am the victim here. Remember this always. We are attracted to and attractive to people of equal dysfunction and health. So if you have bypassed the health of your significant other, you got to get the hell out. At some point, the gap grows too big and they're not going to catch up, and you know they're not going to catch up. You will have to leave this relationship or stop complaining and stay in something that is unequal, unbalanced. The person who is with the person who is the sinner is usually trying to help the sinner and makes their whole life about helping this one person. It's not what you were meant to do. So, as you grow in some of your relationships, you might realize that the gap is growing and you graduate this person. You have to decide what to do. Are they going to grow? This is the same in dating. I've been doing this for more than 20 years. When I was 24 as a therapist, I started having clients who were in serious relationships, couples that were coming in. Why they trusted me, I don't know. But now that I look back, there were so many balanced relationships in health and dysfunction. And even then I saw people and I said, oh, they're the ones in the right. It doesn't work that way. So why am I telling you this in dating? It is an effortful experience to see how that evolutionary match is. And sometimes it takes 3 to 6 months if you're sharp to see it. Sometimes you notice it right away that there's an imbalance here. There is a health spectrum, and we don't usually ultimately end up with somebody too many points ahead or too many points behind. But then we're with this person for a significant amount of time, and we start to grow in different ways. And we realize we outsourced a lot of our needs and wants and things that they do better or things that they do worse, but we want to help them do better at, and we become codependent. We outsource that to this other person. And there's a part of us that wants to make a pig a racehorse. But you can usually only make a pig a faster pig. So you have to realize at some point, this is what you've got. And are you okay with it? We often use the space for what we want on someone else. It's taken up on what we settle for instead. So we need to have an inner urgency for our own growth, towards our own growth, swooning and like lapping up all of the growth that we can get. Be sappy for self, not just for this person that you have in front of you. And realize you have a fully formed ability to indulge your fantasy about the greatness of the date. Did you hear me? We get caught up in the moment and we build them up. It's a natural thing. But we have to know what we are meant for and what's balanced. So as you're thinking about that person, will they text back? Will they write back? Will they call? How's the next date gonna go? Remember that you are in a perpetual state of becoming. A perpetual state of becoming. And as you become, you're growing and growing and growing, and energies are growing. And you kind of exfoliate and detoxify some of the shit that doesn't work for you. Is this person doing the same? You have to see if they have the same kind of level of purpose and desire to grow. The infectious person, the person who is formed and growing, is someone that we project a lot on. So if you are growing significantly, you'll find that people are either attracted to you and compelled by you and comforted by you, or discomforted by you. You might give certain people hope because you're healthy, and you might push the buttons of other people because they're rattled by it. We are clothed in our growth. Now say that again. The uniform we wear, in a sense, not physical, but how we kind of wear our growth will be noticed by people, but it's usually unconscious or subconscious to even us. We don't know how potent we are. So what is going on the inside is usually reflected on the outside, and people are being drawn to it or drawn from it because they're intimidated by it. You might be a high transference character. Well, then you're going to need someone who can handle that kind of weight of power also. You may be lulled and dulled into a relationship that doesn't serve you because it doesn't match well. Don't be so immediate. This is where you have to value yourself enough to not be clutching for a relationship more than you need to. Be okay with being by yourself until the right fit who can empower you and reflect what you have shows up. If you want to be casual, that's a totally different thing. Then you can actually compromise a bit, but you're compromising for the right situation in your life, not to make it the right situation. So as you grow in higher levels of purpose and awareness of self, you will be looking for that in others. And your flame will be threatening to others and also pull people in because they want the light. Cool. If people are drawn in because they can handle it and they want to be with it, then you probably found an equal match. Just hopefully you are both committed to growth. God, that one was heavy. I feel like actually agitated inside by how intense I was about that. Don't be corrupted by how excited I am for your growth. You're on your own pace. I'm on my own pace. But I hope, I pray that you find people that are willing to do the work like you will. And for those of you who are in relationships in which the person refuses to do the work, there will be a point at which you have to make a decision. The decision can be actually to just be resigned to this is the way it's going to be and I don't need this person to be any more than that. But that's okay. Then you can stay in it without these high expectations you're putting on it. So, okay, I'm going to move on. This is one of my favorite parts. It is kind of the most fun part and the most brutal part. It's called repetition in rejection, or reps in rejection. What do I mean by that? If you are going to date, especially online dating, because there's so much more possibility of frequency, you will be rejected and you will be required to reject, unless you're one of these rare animals who in your first try finds a suitor, and that happens, but you're probably not here watching this. You will have to be able to reject people and get rejected. You will have to have the chutzpah to compromise in the right situation or circumstance, not compromise to make it the right circumstance. I have actually seen so many people not reject somebody because they were nervous that they were going to hurt that person or harm that person, that they stayed in something longer than they should have. They compromised. I get it. We all want to be considerate and respectful, and we don't want to hurt folks, don't want to be the asshole. But to do dating well, you have to go through the paces of pain in both respects. Otherwise, you're an amateur. Don't be an amateur in dating. You've got more skills than that you can rely on. Let's play on the random energies we have that force us to say no to somebody. In a sense, we have no choice, and neither does the person rejecting us. Although we think that they should like us more than they do, they have no choice in getting rid of us. And so the non-suitor, the non-fit, can often be the mirror into who you are and what you hold dear about your own ego. Carl Jung says so much suffering comes in the world because people will not accept legitimate suffering. Getting rejected is legitimate suffering. It happens all the time. We are bound and depending on people accepting us and putting some kind of stamp of approval on us, and it's perpetual. And we feel crushed and demoralized, and there is some kind of penetration that happens with the words or the experience of rejection. But it is healthy to get rejected in an appropriate way because it's not a right fit. You have to hurt people. It's different than harming. Harming is irreparable. Hurt is actually just, in a sense, the optimal frustration that people have to experience so they grow. Can you honor somebody and believe in their strength so much that you believe that the rejection can help them grow? Dating is about death. What? Yes, it's about freaking death. I hate to say it. If you meet the person, you're dying to singleness. If you don't meet the person, you're dying to be alone. I don't mean like you're dying to, you want to, but there's a death in both. If you meet the person, you're dying to an experience of having a lot of certain types of freedom. If you meet the person, you're dying to a certain level of freedom in connection. Release people into this. Give them the boldness of saying no. Those of you who like to be liked and your image is so important to you, you have to get good at this. And if your image is so important to you that you can't take the heat of being rejected, it's another thing too. Woo, let me take a pace, let me take a pace, let me take a base. Dating is hard. Don't take it personally. These are some of the things I'm thinking for you right now and for myself. Don't get too caught up in what you think you should have. Don't let the algorithms scare you too much. There's a lot of people who will just swipe past you because you don't appeal to them. And maybe that's based on looks. Get over it. This is physical. Some physical stuff that people are saying yes or no to. We wish it wasn't so, but some people don't like my profile. They don't like this little thing on my nose. Some people want to lick it and put their mouth on it. I don't know. People are freaks. Some people like your nipples. Some people don't like your nipples. I have pictures of myself shirtless on Instagram, so you would actually be able to see my nipples. These are the things that we're getting rejected for. They might be totally insignificant and you think that somebody should love you for who you are. And they might not. And you're doing the same shit. So let's get over it. Get some repetition in rejection. Stop honking your horn, asshole. I think that's my sign that this section is over. Get some reps in rejection. Get good at saying no and get good at saying, I'm willing to be said no to. How do we build this assessment acumen? How do we deselect well? So we just talked about rejecting and being rejected. How do we deselect in a way that serves us? Now, we naturally do this all the time. One thing I like to tell my clients, especially who are having some frustrated experiences with why doesn't this person like me enough, or why don't I get enough attention? I remember in college specifically, but even afterwards, I have some good-looking friends, some good-looking men in my life who get a good amount of attention. But our personalities are very different, and we wear our personalities on our body. I tend to really wear a lot on my body because I have a lot of tattoos, so there is kind of a narrative walking in on my body. There's so many people who aren't into tattoos. So they might naturally deselect me. They might naturally deselect me because of my face, or I have a longer torso than my buddy and he has longer legs and his nose is smaller and my nose is bigger, and all these things that, like the Terminator, we're just assessing. They're just going on when we walk in a room. So what I tell a client is, you might walk into a room with 100 possibilities. Whatever you're into, men, women, they, them, all of the things, you walk in and there's 100 suitors, and you walk in with 5 people. You're all gonna get a certain percentage of interest. The best looking person, naturally, whatever best looking means to you, might get the highest percentage. Just by the world's standards, they seem to be the most ideal and easy to appreciate physically or with their energy. But you might get 1 out of 100. But that one person might be a very good fit for you. But you're so desperate to get the most attention that you miss the one. So whatever your body is like, whatever your soul is like, there's somebody into that. And we have to know that we will constantly be deselected. I love the one of the episodes where George in Seinfeld says, when they like me, I don't like them. And when I like them, they don't like me. This is kind of that natural thing that just, we're often deselected. Now, another episode where Jerry actually talks about looking, and he's talking to his mom and dad, and they're like, he's an idealist, his mom says, and his dad says, you know, what the hell are you looking for? And Jerry says, I'm looking. That's the point. I'm looking. And his mom says, he likes to look. And his dad says, so look then. And Jerry says back, or she says, okay, it's a lot going on. But how long do you have to look? Because of course they want him to find somebody. And he says, I'm going for the record. There's some people who are super critical. Well, if that is you, that may be okay as long as you can live with your singleness, or you can live with your casual experiences until you find somebody that fits all these pieces. Now, if it's an inappropriate level of attention you're giving, then usually people will push back on you. But I know in my life, I kind of moaned and groaned about not having somebody when I was younger. And so people were like, you gotta be more open to this, that, and the other, and you're too picky, and you're this. And when I look back on it, I wasn't too picky. It's just the way I was wired. I was wired to deselect. So as you get more comfortable with you actually might get an accumulation of affirmations. People who are saying, yes, you are on the right path. But remember, when we walk into an experience with somebody, we are noticing contours and curves of not only their body, but their soul. And we are kind of appreciating and de-appreciating things very quickly. And that is kind of normal. Not kind of, it is normal. We have to work with where we're going too far with that and where we're not going far enough. There is a certain amount of skill we have to have. Like, people ask me all the time when I'm in a dating situation, you're a therapist, are you analyzing me right now? And the answer is, we're all doing that. I'm just really freaking good at it. It is my kind of journey in life to evaluate and dissect a bit. So I have some really strong dissection repetition skills, dissection reps. We talked about rejection reps. Do you have dissection reps? Can you actually know enough about yourself to usher in the right people and marshal sort of the internal stuff that says, I have a honed awareness of what I am at least not into. And my internal self has a bit of a radar for what it is appreciating. And therefore, on the other side of that, when we are not being selected, or 1 out of 100 fits us and likes us, and that's actually the right person, but our other friend is getting 50 out of 100, can we appreciate other people's deselection process? And this will require you to know how convinced you are of your confidence in yourself. Can you be okay with the 1 out of 100? Or 1 out of 1,000? That is my question to you. So I hope, as these kind of snaggy and crooked moments in dating happen, that you lean on the confidence that you have built in your own growth, in your own progression, that somebody will really appreciate that, and that somebody might be somebody you have selected also. Okay, moving on. It was a particularly beautiful day, and I'm nothing if not good at making jokes at my own expense, especially when it comes to dating or relationships or the idea of being with somebody full time. Yes, I can teach this stuff, but I am very, very good at being single. I'm very, very good at being alone. And so I made a joke at my own expense to my friend, which was, had this whole kind of hundreds of people at this beer garden in front of us, and there was, I would say, a high percentage of beautiful people, particularly some in the feminine category, and we were noticing and, just appreciating. And I said, in a self-deprecating way, I'm not going to meet my wife here, am I? And he really quickly just returned suit by saying, you're not going to meet your wife anywhere. He said, you are your own wife. And we laughed specifically because there's always some really profound truths when your friends bust your balls. And this was one of those moments where I actually really appreciated the joke, because my friend really gets me. And the word he said right after, and I had not heard this word, or maybe I had in the past, but it didn't particularly land at the time, was Ouroboros. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Ouroboros. And the reason I'm using this word is because it's so hard to say, and I think you'll remember it. But we are always, as Carl Jung says, trying to deliver ourselves into the power of a partner who seems compounded of all the qualities we have failed to realize in ourselves. What, Carl Jung? Breaking it down? Say it again. Always trying to deliver us into the power of a partner who seems compounded, having a lot of the goods of all the qualities we have failed to realize in ourselves. And what my friend was saying when he said that word Ouroboros is that I am bent on realizing within myself the stuff that keeps me sustained, joy-filled, and full of peace. Now, I'm always working on that, and it's a goal. It's not a destination that I've ever reached, but it is my goal for you. So let's break down this word. The word is really pointing to a circular symbol, but you've seen like an 8 or the infinity sign, like an 8 kind of on its side. The word means, in Greek, a tail biter or a tail eater. And the circular symbol is of a dragon or a snake that is swallowing its own tail, kind of like that. Go look it up. It is meant to provide you with this idea of wholeness or infinity or of unity within yourself, that there's endless return in knowing yourself and kind of chewing on you. So, it also depicts the dual nature of existence: life, death, earth, heaven, light, dark, male, female. Now, I'm using binaries here. I'm sure I'm talking to you from all different backgrounds. But the idea is that the stuff we don't have that we're looking for in a partner, we have to find enough of that within ourselves so that we become a better partner. So when you are eating your own tail, you're sustaining yourself. It's a cycle of renewal. And then this way, the partner, your mate, the person that you're targeting and that you partner with, is not feeling the weight of your need for them to fill this for you. You're not biting on their tail and putting a crushing burden on them. You are finding the ways to elucidate from wherever you can more knowledge about yourself, more freedom within. That makes you a better partner. So you're self-unfolding. This is kind of a spiritual and emotional and psychological act of generosity to a partner. You are looking for the consistencies within yourselves, the surging and massing stuff that is within you that you need to work on so you can have this wholeness plan. You're feeding off of the growth within. And this is a beautiful act, like I said, of generosity. That you're not looking for what lies outside, you're readily accessing what you have inside. So it means that you have to become conscious to that stuff. You have to have people, and this is a great thing a partner can do, or friends can do, reveal to you your garbage. So when you're trying to put off that desired impression, it would be better for you to actually be more vulnerable and loosen up so that some of your weaknesses and blind spots can be seen. Not hiding your aches and your pains, but actually sharing them. Now, you're not doing this on the first few dates, but this is a goal for us of getting at that squirrely stuff. To not have an unlived life or an unexamined life. To appreciate, not underappreciate, the missing points within yourselves. And find those unexpected opportunities of potential to get at your stuff. So we are kind of a train steaming forward and we're moving constantly. And this is a way of slowing down and actually moving towards that dragon swallowing experience of wholeness. Again, so your partner could not have to feel the weight. So in dating, we're going to naturally draw on the things that are missing in us from another person. It's a natural thing. I'm not saying you're not going to do that. You'll be doing that the rest of your life with anybody that's around you. But the goal, it's just a goal, and it's a hope that we can use the silent conspirator of Ouroboros, to help us find within ourselves the dislocated part and locate them and then bind them together so that we're not a driven burden on other people. This is a job for us in general. So I'm going to move forward here into this next part, but I want you having that word on your mind because I think it's just a wonky word and you might remember it. It has kind of this mystic energy to it, but it helps you become less soul stuck and moves you out of your kind of bear market, your sleepy market, into a more bullish market of how do you invest in you. So again, the goal here isn't to have yourself perfectly worked out and then go find the partner. No. You can date at any point, but this is some of your ongoing goal so that you are upgrading your system like buying a new Apple phone every year. Okay? So we're talking primarily about working on our stuff, right? Ouroboros is working on our stuff. When you forsake and forgo the need for the other to carry the heavy load of your soul, of your spirit, then you honor them and restore their humanness and their ability to have room and freedom to work on their stuff. So you are marshaling and ushering them in to their own work by giving them a lot of room. So we are naturally kind of prone to projecting on others and making them something we want them to be so they can heal and fix us. But as we do the inward reconciliation, we now open them up. And then that actually allows them to not withdraw so much or our tension to be created. So this is a process of becoming. And I love dating for this reason because it is a primary vessel in ushering in unconscious exploration. We voluntarily choose it. We go into it, but what it does is it creates the right amount of tension for us to see some of our stuff. Here's what we're looking for in the partner. This section is called La Inocente, or Inocente. I don't speak Spanish that well, although I spend a lot of time in Mexico. I should speak better Spanish. But what this means is essentially a person who tries not to harm and can heal harm done. We are naturally afraid that a person's going to harm us. Now again, this is different than hurting. I distinguish these two words. Harm and hurt are different. Harm is irreparable damage. Hurt is what we do to each other all the time, and that's when we're actually often just revealing something that's hard for a person to hear. But you're asking yourself this question, okay? La Inocente. Is this person capable of a certain innocence? I don't mean ignorance, but a certain amount of softness, tenderness, compassion, empathy, and ability to be capable of being restored, communicated to, confronted. Do they have a teachable spirit? I remember one of my first mentors, when we were talking about dating, said this: does this person have a teachable spirit? And what essentially that meant is this person willing to hear hard truths? Are they willing to hear feedback? You can start sensing this in first, second, third dates. Maybe even in the first few minutes. You can sense a certain level of rootedness and ambition towards self. Whew, just made that up. They're willing to be meaningfully communicated to in a way that they'll reflect, research, and have an ability to hold new information and work with it. There isn't kind of an innocence to that. I talk about this later. That's kind of a ability to see with child's eyes, see anew. Now, can you decipher that in a person? Can you start reading that in them and start having a good indication? Because I will tell you, through 20 some odd years of doing therapy as a client and as a therapist. People can talk a good game. People can talk about how they're going to grow, but you can see it when it's there. There is a natural ability to get sucker punched by the world and slam dunked by the world and beat down, but still work on their stuff. I love this quote by Joseph Campbell. He says, not to be an ageist here, but the deeds of the hero or the person in the second part of their journey, okay, so 40 years and on, till your death, will be proportionate to the depth of their descent in the first. So the first 40 years of your life. How do they navigate and traverse the depths of their descent that naturally happen in the beginning of their lives? It will pay off in the second half, how much they've worked on that, how much they've healed the aches and the pains. So can we start to see that in even the first few dates? I know I'm putting a lot of pressure on you because I want it to be fun. But don't get stuck in your hope that this person is going to just start working on themselves. Are they showing you it from the beginning? Subtly sometimes, even in the way their shoulders are holding themselves up, how rooted they are in their body. Okay, so la inocenta. This is the idea of just a certain amount of innocence they have towards new information, meaning they're not grizzled and defended and pushing back. You with me? Amen? It was a little intense. I don't want to make dating unfun. It's fun. I mean, go do the things that you do with the dates, but just have this in your mind just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna stop using that voice. All right, we have the tool of HILA or HILA. I'm gonna give you another tool here, and yes, tools, rules, you know the friggin' thing that I do. Here's a rule that I like to live by. When I am, especially in dating experiences or when I'm going into those kind of states where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of expectation, what I like to do is ask myself, where am I between two thoughts? We are naturally dualistic and binary. So we stick things in categories and there's usually two answers for us that initially come up. But when we ask ourselves the question, where am I between two thoughts? We're really talking about the middle between these two answers, right and wrong, yes, no, good, bad. Then there's all this gray in the middle. And what that requires of us is to be creative and also a bit young in spirit. What do I mean by that? Well, if you follow my Instagram, Drew Newkirk Psychotherapy, in which I put out 1-minute reels, I do some short form stuff too, folks. Go follow. I talk about, in one of the episodes, the Zen principle of beginner's mind. And beginner's mind sets aside what we know or what we expect. And it doesn't judge, it just observes and it looks for a bit. And there is this idea of Vuja. You've heard of deja vu. That's like when you see things over and over again. Vuja is when you see things for the first time. This is a beautiful thing. You get to see things as new and not so expectant of what should be. So this falls right in line with high LA, high intentions, low attachment. We are detached from the future prognostications, predictions, predilections. This is powerful and it reorients us and it shifts us around. So here's a couple examples. Dating's really expensive, especially here in New York City, but depending, even if you go Dutch and you're paying half and half, if you date enough times, it can get expensive. Well, you might look at that as, I do or I don't date because of money situation. If you are in the benefit of being able to spend a little money, you might look at it a third way or with new eyes. Each date, even if it goes poorly, is another place you can find out about yourself. So in a sense, You are paying for therapy sessions. You're paying to learn about yourself a bit. It's just a different way of looking at it. It's between two thoughts. Between this or that is this whole other field. Here's an example. We go into dates and are they right or are they wrong? We tend to really get discouraged by the amount that don't turn into relationships. Well, what if you looked at it a third way as percentages? The chance of you finding somebody on any given date is so low percentage-wise, probably below 1%. Maybe for some of you that are a bit more open to hanging out with different types of people and figuring the things out, you're probably 1 out of 10 could work for you. But for some of us, it's very low percentage. So the numbers are working against you. So if you look at it as like yes on a person or no on a person, and you get very frustrated with it, you can look at it a third way, which is I'm actually just getting my numbers up, so I'm getting closer to that 1% to less than 1%. So we are staying a bit young in the way we are looking at things, with wonder, with excitement, and we're just going like, it's kind of a fantasy finder. You get to play creatively with different ideas. So sometimes we don't know what we need, and we have to have a lot of moments of being spared of something. So the date can actually be going poorly, and we know that we are spared of this person. Or, for example, we need 3 to 6 months with somebody to know that, whoa, this doesn't feel right. I am spared of this person, and I could move on. So I just want you to play. Vuja day, see things for the first time. That means like be creative with how you come up with answers for the problems that you are presented with. And you usually have these two thoughts. And where are you between those two thoughts? Appreciate the uncertainty, appreciate the complexity, appreciate the gray, the in-between. That is the rule and the tool, the rule. I'm such a geek. I am gonna get a date. Yeah. All right, let's piggyback on that with something a little less serious, but just as serious. If you are complaining about dating and then tell me all of the reasons in which you shouldn't be on an app, or you shouldn't go into a bar, or you should, whatever it is, we have the ability for romantic terrorism to sabotage ourselves in either thought or in action. So what is your romantic pathology? What I mean by that is, what is the dysfunctional stuff that gets in the way of you dating, especially with thought patterns? So, like I've said, I've heard every excuse of why I shouldn't do this or shouldn't that, especially apps. This is like the primary one. The idea of not doing apps for all the reasons that I've heard is usually really silly. It is said that by the year 2035, more than 50% of relationships will be because of apps. Not appetizers, applications on your phone. I've heard it all. I have lots of frustrations with apps. Do you want to hear some of them? You might be perpetrators of these crimes. Don't take this too personally. Here's some of the things I hate on apps. When people stick out their tongue and think it's cute in pictures. When you give the middle finger in pictures because you're so bad. If you write on your profile, what is the best way to my heart? Make me laugh. Ooh, the demand, make me laugh. When your primary photo is in a group, who the hell are you? Which one? I don't know. When you're super blurry in every picture, we know what's going on there. If you're over filtered, these filters make people look totally different. It's fascinating. Show me some wrinkles. Show me some flaws. I'll show you the same. How can you ask me out on a date? What's the best way to go on a date with me? Just ask. Really? Come on, you could be more creative than that. Oh, how about age? Ooh, I've seen actual relationships work when people lied about their age on apps, but Let's talk about it. I love this one. Facebook won't let me change my age. And they tell you this after they've been talking to you for, I don't know, 2 days, or possibly on the date that they're like 10 years older. All of the stuff, it's all out there. We have to get over ourselves to do these things because they are annoying. And I know you'd love to meet people IRL. Do you know what that means? In real life acronym. Yes, we all want to meet the person in real life, but why not get some repetition in this app world? And I'm using this as an example of romantic terrorism. There's all these ways in which you are putting yourself in a position to fixate on the resistances. It is a risk to put yourself out there. And there is a fear of life that we have, that we don't want to get in the mix. And there's a cowardness in it. And the natural reflex is to come up with all the problems out there. This is why I will not do it, because this stuff is all flawed. All right. You might have a stubborn inhibition, and you're magnifying the problems that are inherent in this process. And you're becoming controlled by the element of your negativity. And we can become totally neurotic in this sense. So we need to have an urge towards putting ourselves in harm's way. I don't mean dating people who are scary. If you have like a real strong sense that I shouldn't go on this date, cool, different thing. But can you have courage in this process? And like I've said 1,000 times, not 1,000 times because we're still in the beginning here, but I will say it 1,000 times, that we must go towards challenging ourselves, pushing past the ideal and getting towards the real, and not compensating constantly for what's missing in ourselves by blaming out there or looking for the other person to fill it. So you might be overusing your imagination of how things will go wrong. But try the sea that brings all changes and brings all chances to the land, no matter, so that it heal me of my wound. Can you put yourself out on the sea with all of the rolling tides to find out where you're broken and start fixing it? Let him or her or they who cannot be alone beware of dating. You might be using it to occupy yourself. Let he, her, or they who is not able to be in community beware of being alone. So if you love being alone so much that you can't get out there and you're using the excuse of, I don't like small talk, can you be playfully serious and seriously playful? Can that be a solution? Can you realize that your stubbornness is getting in the way of learning how to do small talk? These are the solutions we can find. So I'm just challenging you to psychoeducate yourself on what are the ways that you're grudgingly resistant and that you are living solitarily because you don't want to unmask yourself in some of the shit that gets in the way. So have an identification and a fair observer of your insides that are resistant and challenge them a bit. If you're not ready yet, cool, but get there if this is a desire for you. All right, finally, we are now going to create a commitment device, a CD. Commitment device is essentially a way to lock oneself into following a plan of action. Usually a plan of action that we are resistant to or that we're not quite ready for, and we lock ourselves into that by creating some kind of commitment device. There's a reward, there's a punishment. You can create that on your own. A lot of times this is by telling a friend to hold you accountable. You might start a little group of your own of people who are single, who want to date, and you come up with some commitments together that lock you in. They might be time oriented, they might be quantity oriented, but it has to be something you can control. So for example, if I make this video for YouTube, I can't control how many people are going to watch. I can have a goal in my mind of how many viewers I want, but I can't really control that. But what I can do is say, it will get done at this time. It will have this many parts. This is some of the topics I want to address. This is how I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up with groups that can meet online to connect and keep each other accountable and create commitment devices themselves. I can do those things because they are within my control. So this is the next step for you. It might be that you just try to go out on a certain amount of dates with no care if you meet the right person, but that you just go on the dates. Now, I have to say, I totally understand that we all live in different regions and different places. I live in New York City. There is so much opportunity to date here. I could go on a date every single night, possibly. It's probably within the power of any New Yorker to do that. No matter how interesting, good looking, whatever, they could probably get enough dates to pack up their week. It would get very expensive and it would be totally draining, but capable. You might live in a rural area with hardly anybody around. Well, then you have to, one, realize this is limitation. So if I get a client specifically who says, dating's so hard, blah, 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 and they complaining about it, and I ask them where they live, and they tell me that there's like 10,000 people within, 100 square miles. Well, they're going to be limited. They need to stop complaining, or they need to move to a place where there's just more singles. So that's just the reality. But if you do live in one of those spots, you can still set your intentions and have a commitment device based on those limitations. That is okay. So let's just try to keep each other accountable here and find somebody that you can share this with so that you start to put some pressure on yourself to grow. It doesn't need to be even using dating, but that's what we're talking about here. All right, folks. Thanks for coming on the journey with me, folks. I hope it was a good ride and that you got through the whole thing. I hope this helps you with your dating experiences. There will be episodes on each Enneagram number. If you're not familiar with the Enneagram number, go peruse my YouTube. There's a lot of content there on the Enneagram. And I think it's just a powerful tool for people. So I'm going to go into each number and hopefully you guys delve into that as well. Remember, my name is Drew. You can reach out to me for dating coaching and also these groups that I'm going to be setting up. So it could be a real positive experience for you. Please subscribe. And as always, at the end of every one of my videos, I say this from the words of Rainer Marie Rilke: everything is yet to be done. Everything. We can have hope in that. All right, folks. Have a good one.